Chapter 14, Forgive. Forgive is part of the set of tools called Tools of Moving Forward. In truth, this is the GOGI Safety Tool. This tool gives you permission to get a safe distance from harmful people, places, and things. When you are a safe distance from harm, you will naturally find yourself giving back to others. As a safety tool, Forgive has you asking what you need to do to get a safe distance from harm. In asking that question, you are putting yourself in a position to be a benefit to yourself, your family, your friends, and your community. When you are safe from harm, you will undoubtedly begin to give back to others. For you to give, you must be safe from harm. Get safe and then give back with your handy tool, Forgive. Forgive, as a tool, is not about forgiveness. The two are different. Forgive is a tool, not a concept. Most religions and cultures teach the power of forgiveness, which frees you from many negative emotions and feelings. The difference is that the GOGI Life Tool Forgive can help you come to a greater understanding and easier application of forgiveness in your life. Forgive as a tool requires that you protect yourself. This is because it's not wise to forgive somebody for hitting you when they are standing in front of you with their fists raised. You would be much wiser to protect yourself first. Forgiveness is not wise when danger is at hand. If you are suffering from a meth addiction, it is not wise or even possible to forgive yourself when you are actively using or just beginning the recovery process. When you use the tool Forgive, you need to be open to creating a new support system, a change of peers, an alignment with an alternative culture, and a practice of skills and tools to move beyond the vulnerable state in which you find yourself. Forgive is a tool you can use to remind yourself to get a good distance from harm. Forgive is not forgiving. A child who suffered sexual abuse can use the tool Forgive when they are no longer at risk for continuation of the abuse, even if this can only occur when they become an adult. An individual can also use the tool Forgive to move beyond the actions of their past if they have truly corrected their thinking and behavior so they are no longer in danger of repeating the same action. Forgive, as a GOGI Life Tool, states that it is not enough to say or hear the words, "I am sorry." There must be safety from further harm for the tool Forgive to work properly. Forgive requires distance, protection, and the positive choices which lead to freedom. This does not mean that you do not feel remorseful or trauma for what happened, but it does mean that you do not need to relive the past over and over again. More than the past. Reliving the past only creates more of the past. If you wallow in the past, your present and your future will be filled with wallowing and may result in more angst and more pain. This creates more negativity. To develop insight and lead a meaningful life, you can be of positive service to others no matter what has happened in the past. Using the GOGI Life Tool Forgive is as simple as asking yourself, am I still at risk of being hurt or hurting others? If you are at risk, you need to protect yourself. If you are safe from harming self or others, then Forgive permits you to have a new perspective of being of service and giving back. Get distance. No matter what you did or what they did or what you experienced or the harm you caused, if you don't want it to happen again, then you can use your tool Forgive to move forward. Forgive can be thought of as a tool to help you give back, using what happened in the past as your testament to how much an individual can change. For me to give, I must be a safe distance from harm. That is the tool forgive. Forgive in action. Forgive is a word that is used frequently and asked of us with equal frequency. Forgive as a GOGI Life tool, however, is very different from the word forgive. Forgive as a tool is an action item. It requires action on your part, and it has little to do with engaging in conversation with another. Don't misunderstand. At GOGI, we know forgiveness is important. To address hurts and harms with others, to ask for and to give forgiveness is the backbone of nearly every spiritual study, religion, and culture. At GOGI, forgive is simply a tool you can use to get beyond the hurt or harm caused by self or others. When you get beyond the harm, it's easier for forgiveness to emerge. The protection tool. Forgive is about creating safety and protection. The real question in using the GOGI Life tool Forgive is, are you a sufficient distance from the harm-causing person or circumstance? With this tool, you look for protection from further harm because until you are a sufficient distance from the harm, there's no point in trying to forgive. As a tool, Forgive requires that you get a distance from the harm. Let's say your harm is a gambling habit. You can say sorry or please forgive me 1,000,000 times, but if you don't stop gambling, you are too close to harm. Harm is still hovering. The tool Forgive requires that you do any and everything to distance yourself from harmful actions and harmful people. For you to give. Ultimately, Forgive is your tool for you to give back, give to others, and get out of the limits created by the harm. When we are harmed or harm ourselves, our world begins to revolve around the harm we just lose sight of our innate need to give to others. For us to give, we must be safe enough from harm that our world gets larger and includes observing and serving the needs of others. For us to give, we need distance from harm. That is the critical difference between forgiveness as a spiritual concept and forgive as a GOGI Life tool. For me to give back to others, for me to help those who are hurting, for me to be all that I can be, I must be a safe distance from harm. Forgive, the safety tool. For me to give, I need safety from harm. For me to give, I unhook from the past and find my internal freedom. Forgive is your safety tool. Forgive is your permission to move forward and put a stop to recurring pain. In a real way, forgive is your ticket away from the harm, even if you were the one who caused the harm. Here's how to use the GOGI Life tool Forgive. What is the harm? What hurts the most? Where in my life do I hold resentments? Where am I disappointed, enraged, or angered? Get distance. Am I a sufficient distance from potential harm? Is there a way for me to be hurt in this way again? If so, I will get away. For the give. For me to give, I unhook from the past and get to safety. With my new distance from the harm, I can choose to do something nice for someone else. I choose to be of service. Here's some commentary on the tool Forgive. Many students can't get past the word forgive and the tool for-give. And they don't forgive themselves for all they've done, for all they've said, for the harm they've caused, etc., etc. And yet they want to give back. But they're wallowing in such shame or anger or rage or blame or whatever. It's very difficult for them to be totally present to inspire others when they are wallowing in thoughts of the past. Forgiveness is necessary. It's really awesome, even if it's a one-sided forgiveness. and the person that hurt you never says, "I'm sorry," or "Please forgive me." That is important, but sometimes we just don't get it. And sometimes it's difficult for us to forgive ourselves. One way to make that easier is to get distance from harm. And that's why we have the GOGI Life tool, Forgive. Chapter 15, the tools of creation. What if, reality check, and ultimate freedom. The next set of tools we will explore in the following chapters are the tools of creation. These tools permit you to create a positive life experience regardless of your current situation. The tools of creation permit you to become creative with your future. The tools of creation help you move powerfully into the life you have always wanted, but a life you may not have thought possible. This set of tools was designed to free you from the perception that things will not change or your life is limited to current circumstances. If you diligently practice the 3 tools in this set, you will find unlimited and unrestricted potential for your life within your grasp. The tools of creation require you to be brave enough to consider your life as more than circumstantial and consider yourself as more than a victim of situations. You get to dream. With your GOGI Life tools, you get to dream with what if and make room for new and different possibilities. Reality check lets you come to realize you are not perfect and you are likely to make mistakes. Reality check keeps shame and hopelessness out of the change process and permits you to quickly recover from your mistakes. Ultimate freedom is about using the most positive aspects of who you are to create a better world. Living your life in service of others is the only true and lasting freedom that does not require convenience of things going your way. Ultimate freedom can never be taken away, and it gives back much more than the investment you give. Bravery isn't cheap. Bravery has a few requirements for sustainability. It requires faith in something greater or more powerful than oneself. For some, this may be a reliance upon God or faith in a divine order of things. For others, it is a mission or vision for the future that is so strong that natural fear is overshadowed. For some individuals, like me, bravery was the last option available. Blaming others, cursing the system, and complaining about all I had been denied didn't seem to work very well. Regardless of how you get to the need for bravery, be it divine or desperation, it will take a consistent dose of bravery before the tools in this set even begin to make sense. Be forewarned. There are multiple forms of bravery, and only one form works in developing a sustainable freedom. There is the bravery that comes with an adrenaline rush. This is temporary. There is a bravery that is a slow burn. This requires tending to the slow burn you keep aflame even during a torrential downpour. Bravery is developed daily. The good news is, and I can personally attest to this, bravery can be developed. Like most of us, I was not born automatically brave. This was an aspect of my life that I cultivated over years of determination. I have witnessed it in others. I have done it for myself. And I speak from my heart when I say that you will experience great levels of internal freedom growing incrementally when you nurture the slow burn of bravery. To do this, you can start small. Pick one simple action each day that requires you to expand and grow beyond your current comfort level. This may be as simple as picking a positive word of the day and making certain you use that word in conversations no fewer than 10 times before you pull your feet up off the floor at nightfall. It may be as simple as making eye contact and offering a smile to a specific type of person you have previously ignored. It can be as simple as brushing your teeth with the opposite hand than you have dedicated as your regular toothbrushing hand. Doing the small things differently creates bravery for doing the bigger things differently. Developing long-lasting bravery is best when in small and consistent doses. Getting your creations going. This set of tools, What If, Reality Check, and Ultimate Freedom, is about your often hidden powers to direct your life's outcome. If a specifically desired outcome is not likely, you are able to create the unrestricted experience of freedom within your physical limitations, even in the face of what appears to be immovable obstacles. For example, the individual who has lost an arm may use the GOGI Life Tools in this world, but the arm is not going to be reattached to the body. Using the GOGI Life Tools, however, it is possible for this individual to develop the ability to emotionally empower other physical disabled individuals. It is possible to develop reading or video materials to help new amputees deal with the inherent challenges of losing a limb. It is possible for this individual to seek support for a robotic or prosthetic arm. There are opportunities to make a positive contribution even while experiencing limitations. The point is, while some facts simply will not change, how you manage to create freedom beyond those facts defines your creative life expression. That is when your bravery comes into play. Luckily, within each set of tools are the natural and simplified building blocks for bravery. This enables you to create from a place of strength and not suffer from a place of perceived victimization of oneself. This enables you to create from a place of strength and not suffer from a place of perceived victimization of oneself. When taught to individuals who are actively and bravely engaged in the quest of freedom, the tools of creation seem to act in the same way as an injection of NOS does into a race car, catapulting the individual into even greater levels of internal freedom. What if? When GOGI girl Terry rushed down the stairs from her second-tier jail cell and excitedly approached me with childlike enthusiasm, the What If tool was added to our toolbox. Coach Taylor, she exclaimed. Yes, Terry, what is it? I replied. Coach Taylor, what if I'm not my past? What If was added to the GOGI Life toolbox that day. Until that moment, it had never occurred to me that some individuals would remain stuck in defining themselves by their past actions. But that is truly the case. Addiction may cause an individual to define their life by a substance, and as a result, they feel helpless, hopeless, and even powerless to make changes. Addiction is like other circumstances in which you may choose to define yourself, or you may create other constructs that limit your freedom. Saying, I am a meth addict is a different perspective than I am addicted to meth. Meth addiction does not need to be the limit of their life experience. The question Terry asked is one we all may ask ourselves with each and every decision. What if there is another possibility just around the corner that is just as valid, just as strong, just as truthful? Terry realized that although she was powerless over the way things were presented to her in her life, she was entirely in control of the things related to her attitude towards them. Only the brave, or in my case, the totally desperate individual, is willing to question every preconceived notion. The brave, or the desperate, ask questions in an effort to break free of otherwise limiting self-definition. Here's a real-life experience. I travel often, visiting GOGI leaders and helping them expand the GOGI culture inside prisons and jails. While on the road, credit cards are used, suitcases are moved around, rental cars and motels are used. I'm fairly vulnerable. in that my internet connections are frequently public and shared with some individuals who have not yet been exposed to the joy of living the GOGI way. I have been stolen from, lied to, and manipulated as a result of the vulnerability from having a lot of public contact and exposure to strangers. For a while, I believed I had no control over thieves who tap into my credit cards and bank accounts to steal money. I believed that it was just part of the pain and disappointment I had to endure in making myself available to those who were limited in awareness of the joy that comes from positive life choices. With What If, however, I came to realize that I have great power over my computer passwords and where I log into the internet. Ultimately, I can protect my credit cards, my identification cards, and other documents. In using this tool, I realize I am not powerless over thieves, as there are specific actions I can take to reduce my vulnerability. Sure, I am powerless over thieves if I am careless, but I am no longer careless. I'm no longer complacent about being violated and treated less than honorably. I am, in fact, brave when I use my tool, What If. I use my tool, What If, and I ask, what if I avoid as much possible danger as I am able to? I have even gotten so good at this tool that I can now help others protect themselves as well. I quite regularly remind volunteers not to leave doors unlocked, not to leave purses or wallets or cash in plain view, not to leave anything visible in any car, not to leave a bicycle outside even if they are locked, not to tempt anyone to live in a way that is inconsistent with enhancing the safety of others. Do not tempt the weak expecting them to be strong. As a student of GOGI, I know I can fortify a weak situation by making strong and positive choices. What If is about expanding beyond a limiting reality and defining the world from a perspective of strength. What if you are not your past? Who are you? That is what this tool has you ask yourself. Reality check. Before it became one of the GOGI Life Tools, there were tools with which to make more positive decisions. But there was a void in allowing mistakes, failures, and backslides to be experienced from a place of power and learning. Reality check is the tool that, when used as we explore and expand our life experiences, we realize we fall short of perfection and sometimes create quite a mess of things. This tendency to make one poor decision and give up is particularly common with individuals suffering from addiction. This scenario played itself out all too often with the students of GOGI in the formative years of the GOGI culture. Reality check was a tool born of many tears and shattered hopes as the GOGI girls were released from the GOGI campus at the Los Angeles County Jail. They tended to be certain that armed with their GOGI Life Tools, they would remain sober. Then, before they could celebrate their successes, I would receive word from a jail staff that our very confident GOGI girl was back in receiving at the jail, arrested for yet another drug offense. What I found when I interviewed these women is that failure came as a bigger blow than all prior arrests. They were certain that having the GOGI Life Tools would have guaranteed a perfect life, free from addiction that plunged them for many years leading up to their opportunities at GOGI campus. Reality checked helped each one of them realize that 10 steps forward that they had experienced in their campus training were not erased with 2 steps back. No one could take away the 10 steps forward and the knowledge gained in each of those steps. And only they were responsible for the 2 steps back. Reality check was added to the GOGI toolbox to offer a positive outcome even amid imperfections of human life. Reality check was added to the GOGI toolbox to offer a positive outcome, even amid the imperfections of human life. Ultimate freedom. Ultimate freedom is a self-regeneration tool in that the more you use it, the more it shows up in other aspects of your life. This tool is like putting on a pair of goggles that enhance vision capabilities that permit you to see beneath the superficial nature of daily life and into a bigger picture of all things. When armed with ultimate freedom and the perspective it enhances, you continually experience the power of purpose and meaning. This tool is all about your ability to be the creator of positivity and to bless the lives of everyone around you to see beyond reality into the world of possibility. When you dedicate every day to making the world a better place with your positive attitude and your willingness to be helpful to others, the end of your day can be met with a complete and total level of satisfaction. Humans are designed as expansive creators of life, and through the use of this tool, we can accomplish great things that bring even greater levels of internal freedom. The tools of creation may seem simple. They may even seem obvious. But if creating is simple, why do we see so much suffering across so many different cultures and people? In consideration of this fact, let's take one more look at bravery. Whether the motivation is divine or desperation, the individual may find power, oftentimes buried deep within, to direct and dictate their own life's direction. The tools of creation are powerful, but most effective when combined with the steady practice of all the GOGI Life Tools. In review, the tools of the body empower you to take control of the physical. Tools of choice permit you to direct your next steps along your journey. Tools of moving forward free you from the attachments to the past. And our beloved tools of creation unlock your creative genius to contribute positively to the world in which you live. How different would your life be if you truly believed in your ability to create your life experience? Your thoughts, words, and actions are the ingredients of your creation. We're on to Chapter 16. I'm reading from the GOGI Life Tools mini book. I'm Coach Taylor, and this chapter is What If? What If is part of the set of tools called Tools of Creation. This tool lets you create new outcomes for yourself by taking you out of the life's victim seat and putting you in charge of your decisions. You can filter everything through this tool so that you can see just where your choices are leading you. What if you signed up for class? What if you didn't? What if you made that phone call? What if you didn't? What if you reached out to someone in need? What if you didn't? When you start using what if for all your choices, you may first notice that most of your choices today are exactly the same as your choices yesterday. How are you expecting a different outcome with the same choices? With this tool, you can give all your thoughts, words, and actions the what if and create something different from the past. There are two ways you can use this tool, what if. You can use it to play out the likely result of a negative action, or you can use it to play out the positive possibilities. What might be possible if you asked, what if? What if you went back to school? What if you created a different affiliation? What if you joined AA? What if you attended chapel services? What if you read a positive book? What if you didn't do the same old things? What if you learned a new skill? What if you began to work out and eat healthy foods every day? On the other hand, what if you keep doing what you've always done? What if you don't do anything differently? Your future, your way. Many individuals fail to look far enough into the future to get a clear picture of the ripple effect created by every decision. As a GOGI Life tool, what if permits you to see the likely outcome of current choices, giving you a clearer idea about that one cigarette, that last high, or the next rage episode, what it all might mean. Each action, as small as it may seem, has a ripple effect in your future. What if permits you to slow down your actions long enough to see the future outcome of your small and seemingly insignificant decisions today. For individuals who struggle with the desire for the pleasure of instant gratification, or those who suffer from impulse control challenges, the tool What If lifts the fog and lets you see the possible outcome. You become the master, the controller, the one dictating what is going to happen to you in your future. What If is your peek into the future and permits you to make your choices accordingly. You get to ask, what if I am not my past? The cool thing about the tool What If is that it permits you to predict the likely future outcome of today's actions. If you witness someone walking into the chapel each day, the eventual outcome will likely be a person with more religious attitudes. If you witness someone pulling out a cigarette every day, the eventual outcome will be a person who hangs out with smokers, thinks about smoking, smells like smoke, and suffers from the inevitable health limitations caused by smoking. If you see someone reading and spending time in the law library, the eventual outcome will be a person with increased knowledge of law. What If is a tool that gets you beyond the immediate desires running rampant in your mind and has you play out the scene like a movie script. You can ask, what if I do this? Is it negative or positive? What if I don't do this? What else might I do? Taming the wave. Impulsive, frightened, angry, and desperate people all have a difficult time controlling the immediacy of their feelings. It is often difficult for them to actually see beyond the wave of emotions or opinions far enough to see an outcome. What If is a popular tool for anyone interested in directing their future. By looking into the possible future outcomes and by gauging if an action is on a positive or negative path, you are more inclined to overcome the wave of emotions clouding your ability to make positive decisions. Negative? Positive? Here's the place where people get tripped up with the tool What If. For some reason, they refuse to acknowledge that everything they do has a negative or positive implication. One more drink is negative. One more negative statement is negative. One missed AA meeting, one skipped church meeting, one time cheating on an exam, one purchase of a counterfeit certificate, one misrepresentation of the truth, all are negative. These small and seemingly insignificant negatives create negative outcomes, much like boulders in the way of your success. Boulders which are, by the way, put in place by you. Here's a question for you to consider. What if you stop being your only enemy and start using the tool What If to direct every action every day? What if you did not make that poor choice if you knew it would only lead down a dark path? What if enough was truly enough and you got down to the business of making your life a positive creation? What if? What if I am not my past? No to the past is equal to yes to the future. What If is a tool that can be used to predict possible future outcomes. You can predict much of your future with What If. Here's how. Positive or negative? Is this action positive or negative? Best or worst? What is the possible outcome? What is the worst that can happen? What is the best that can happen? Possible outcome. I can clearly see a potential outcome. My choice will lead me in a definite direction. Take action. If not a positive direction, I tell myself to pick any other action which is positive. You know, your future is predictable. What you do today creates your future. What If is a tool you can use to dedicate yourself to a positive outcome. What if there is a new you emerging, thought by thought, word by word, and action by action? What if? This is Chapter 17, Reality Check. We're reading from the GOGI Life Tools mini book, and I am Coach Taylor, the author. Chapter 17, Reality Check. Reality Check is part of the set of tools called Tools of Creation. This tool is your permission to be a flawed human, but does not give you permission to remain in a flawed state. Your 10 steps forward and 2 steps back are still 8 steps ahead. Your 2 steps back do not mean you are a failure. Growth and change is rarely a linear process, and this tool helps you quickly get back on track. When you use Reality Check, you acknowledge you messed up, but you get right back on track by making your very next decision the most positive decision possible. With Reality Check, you understand that you are not perfect, but you keep moving forward toward positive growth with your very next thought, word, and action. Using this tool, you come to understand that your mistakes do not define you. What defines you is how you get back on track once a mistake is made. Therefore, the GOGI Life Tool Reality Check offers you a new way of thinking about change. Reality Check lets you course correct quickly. What often happens is that we make serious promises to stop doing something. We may even do a great job at our new commitment. Then, the bottom falls out of our lives and something terrible happens. Somehow we find ourselves right back into old behaviors. Or maybe the bottom doesn't fall out and somehow we've slipped back into our old habits without even knowing what happened. Regardless of how we get there, many people throw in the towel and beat themselves up with shame and blame, and then they relapse into old behavior. Then, having given up, they decide they may as well go on another run, and they ride this old rodeo all the way out once again. Stop the ride. Reality Check permits you to stop the inevitable ride to the bottom by focusing on your successes. Is it terrible that you are backsliding? Yes, but not as terrible as giving up and letting a mistake or failure take you all the way down to the rock bottom once again. The tool Reality Check states that 10 steps forward and 2 steps back is still 8 steps ahead. Getting back on track as quickly as possible is more important than trying to ignore it or just go with your failures. You and everyone you know are simply human. Humans are error-prone beings in a state of constant learning. Once you accept that learning from errors can be an opportunity throughout the human experience, you can be a little kinder to yourself when you stumble. And you can use Reality Check to get back on track quickly. There is no point in trying to be perfect. You will fail at that. There is great accomplishment, however, in not letting your failures or mistakes diminish your commitment to be your best and to develop and grow your skills. Reality Check allows you to look at mistakes from the perspective that the mistake does not dictate your future successes. With Reality Check, you get right back on track as quickly as possible and keep moving forward. As with all the GOGI Life tools, our interpretation of the actual words are different than the common use of words. Forgive, for example, is different than the act of forgiving. As a tool, claim responsibility is quite different from claiming a responsibility. This is similar with Reality Check. Never perfect, always progress. Reality Check is a tool for you to use when you backstep, make a mistake, fall off, or do something stupid, or are tempted to toss in the towel and focus on your imperfections. With the tool Reality Check, you understand you are not perfect. You will never be perfect, but you can strive for the most perfect version of you. If perfection is something you attempt to achieve in vain, you may find yourself in a downward spiral of self-hatred, sinking further into bad decisions because you are discouraged by your imperfections. Reality check is about not falling victim to the perfection syndrome, but rather remaining focused on getting back on the right path as quickly as possible so the damage done by poor choices is as minimal as possible. Your life raft. As a tool, reality check can be used as a life raft in a sea of bad decisions. It's your escape route from needing one more rodeo ride. It's your ticket back on track, back to the positive choices you have made and will continue to make. Reality check does not focus on your mistakes, but focuses on how much good you've done up to the time of your mistake. Then, setting the mistakes aside, reality check has you focus on getting right back on track with the use of your GOGI Life Tools. Remember, if you take 10 steps forward and then fall back a couple steps, you're still 8 steps ahead. If you take 10 steps forward and 11 steps back, at least you know how to take a step forward. There is no room for self-victimization with reality check because you're not going to sit around and beat yourself up with all the negative self-talk. With this tool, you're able to pick yourself up and decide your next positive action. Delicate dance of change. Reality check is an awesome tool because change is rarely linear. It is almost always a delicate dance of backward and forward, inching your way into a new reality. Of course, it is easier if we just walk the path forward, but alas, humans are human, and it appears as if we prefer to learn things the hard way until we decide that the easy way is easier. Reality check permits us to create an easier route toward the change in the dance of creating a positive life. You know, as hard as you try, you will never find perfection in this lifetime. We are human, and being human is a learning experience. Realizing this, we may apply the GOGI Life tool called Reality Check to our learning process. Reality check. The 10 and 2 rule. 10 steps forward and 2 steps back is still 8 steps ahead. Reality check is your tool when you mess up, make a mistake, or fall victim to temptation. Reality check also helps you have compassion for the weaknesses in others. It works like this. Fact, I messed up. Progress. There are many times I don't mess up. I've made great progress. I've done really well, better than I have in the past. One mistake does not erase all the good I've done. I understand my good is still my good. Back on track. Right now, in this moment, I can choose more good, adding to the list of good things I've done. I commit to positive actions right now. I am back on track. Reality check is the perfect tool if shame, self-loathing, embarrassment, and discouragement have been your pattern. You are not and will never be perfect, but you can commit to being better today than yesterday, and better tomorrow than today. That's our reality check. Chapter 18, Ultimate Freedom. Ultimate freedom is part of the set of tools called Tools of Creation. This tool is the least obvious of the tools because it's used to create a way of moving through your day and not necessarily a tool you pull out when something breaks down. When you use your tool Ultimate Freedom, you make decisions that help you be of service to others. You use this tool by being positive. That is a service to others. You'd use this tool by being helpful. That's a service to others. You use this tool by being a safe distance from harm. That is a service to others. When you use Ultimate Freedom, you realize that you are important and a potential solution to any and every problem. As a walking and talking potential solution, you are living a life of service. That is the ultimate use of the tool ultimate freedom. Ultimate freedom is pretty simple. Until you are living each and every day of your life in service, making the world a better place, you are not truly free. If you are living for your own gratification, you will eventually become aware that there is more to life. If you are living your life to get more and have more, then you will eventually experience disappointment and dissatisfaction. Ultimate freedom as a GOGI Life tool helps us realize our freedom is not determined by physical freedom. Ultimate freedom is what can be experienced when you focus your life's actions towards helping others and living humbly in service of those who struggle. You develop deep compassion for those who remain blinded by the need for things or the need to maintain a certain image. Live with no regrets. When, at the end of the day, you can review your activities and decisions and count numerous times that you brought a smile or hope to another individual, that is when you can be certain that this ultimate freedom is part of your everyday life. Living your life in humble service and making your corner of the world nicer, cleaner, and a kinder place permits your life to be filled with learning, sharing, and loving. When we get close to the time we leave this earth, we will naturally reflect on important things that have defined our lives. In speaking with thousands of individuals who suffer from illnesses that will one day take their life, they consistently speak about relationships, learning, sharing, and communication as being the most important. A dying individual simply does not talk about big houses, new cars, and all the distractions which are promoted in our culture as the route to happiness. A dying individual will tell you about love, regrets in love, the importance of the small things in life, and the small acts of kindness they experienced. They often speak of regrets. So while we have thousands upon thousands of individuals who on their deathbeds have told us what is truly important, why is it that we focus on superficial collection of things we can't take with us when we leave this earth? Using ultimate freedom, you can experience compassion for those who suffer in a prison of their own mind. Your freedom. Knowing that sustained internal freedom is strengthened through service, your focus would likely be on building positive connections with those around you. Using your tool, Ultimate Freedom, will help you focus your efforts on your choices that benefit your life as well as the lives of others. This is how you earn lifelong respect as someone who contributes more than they consume. You become trusted this way. You experience love this way. The tool Ultimate Freedom makes internal freedom possible for each of us. The other GOGI Life Tools are simply tools to position us to live a life where we can use the tool Ultimate Freedom daily. By using your tools and being of service at least one time a day, you are inching your way toward truly living a life of internal freedom. Service as a key. There is likely no greater internal joy than living your life in the service of those in need. But, and there is always a but, this cannot be done until you are in the mental and emotional space to actually be of service. If you are not prepared to be of service, you may measure and count your service and indebt others in your mind. When this happens, you're still in a form of prison. The tool Ultimate Freedom is certainly not for the faint of heart or for those clouded with the need to be acknowledged or rewarded. Ultimate Freedom is about doing something for others, something which will probably never be noticed. Better yet, do something positive for others who have harmed, hurt, or caused you pain. Be of service to anyone, regardless of their actions towards you. This will give you a freedom few others experience. Simple freedom. This may be quite a heavy concept to grasp, so let's keep it simple. Let's keep it to the daily actions you choose in your life. By committing to do one act of kindness for another human being, which is not seen or heard by others, You are laying the foundation for a life filled with freedom for which we all strive. Freedom within. We all want to be internally free of sadness, anger, codependency, dependency, depression, addiction, rage, despair, hopelessness, illness, etc. A true balm for these feelings, a lasting healing, comes from the daily practice of the tool ultimate freedom. It's not necessary to picture yourself being of service by roaming the country in long robes and picking up trash along the freeway for the rest of your life. Begin to think about how you can use ultimate freedom today in simple ways. Pick out one little, seemingly insignificant thing you can do to make the life of someone else just a little bit better. Do that thing without any expectations of acknowledgement or reward or privilege. Do it unnoticed. Do it just to do it. If someone says thank you or notices you, pick out something else you can do where there is no reward, no thank you attached. Maybe it's as simple as picking up a piece of trash or making the row of books a little more organized. Maybe it is keeping your bedding tidy and nice to look at, or teaching someone to read. Maybe it is writing a letter of gratitude or apology to a teacher at your high school, or sharing inspirational words with students of that school. Whatever it is, pick one way in which you can be of service. Fill your life with these acts, and freedom will be yours as a lasting life experience, regardless of the inevitable challenges you will face. Ultimate freedom. Being free is up to me. Living a life of service sets me internally free. Ultimate freedom is a state of being, just as much as it is a tool. Here's how to practice the tool ultimate freedom each and every day. Free day. I begin my day in freedom from anything which might hold me back. Today, I am of positive service to the world. Service. I will do one thing for which I accept no money and will accumulate no favors. If possible, I will do this act of service without anyone knowing. Joy. I will slow my thoughts enough to feel the joy in my heart that only comes from doing good deeds today. Smile. Even if things are terrible in my life right now, I will smile each and every time I think about ultimate freedom and my service to the world. And each day, I end my day reviewing times I used ultimate freedom when I was of service. Being of service sets me internally free. Well, here's a little commentary on that one. I think for me, I didn't feel worthy of a good life. But when I became rather dedicated, if not obsessed, in helping prisoners find their freedom and spreading the GOGI Life Tools to anybody that would listen to them, funny enough, in my desire to help them find the life I felt they and their victims and the families were worthy of, somehow that became my life. It's almost as if treating people the way you want to be treated changes things. It's almost as if seeing people as their very best changes things. It's almost as if living a life of service sets you free. Chapter 19, the final chapter in the GOGI Life Tools mini book written by Coach Taylor. That's me. Chapter 19, putting your tools to use. Notes and suggestions from GOGI Coach Taylor. As you come to the end of this book, you may have many questions. A couple may be how to use your GOGI Life Tools and what level of impact might they have in your life. Well, in this chapter, we will review some of the questions students have asked over the years. The first of which is how to use the GOGI Life Tools. As an individual, you can use your GOGI Life Tools in any way that work for you. If you were a car mechanic, you would use your tools any way to fix the problem at hand. There are, of course, general tendencies and suggested uses, but your goal is to get the job done your way. You do not need to try to do things the way a to-do manual claims is the correct way. You can observe others, test tools, practice options, and figure out things for yourself. Or you can follow the manual and reduce the trial and error process. The point is, these are now your tools. Some individuals follow the GOGI Life Tool calendar and find comfort in the knowledge that they are never alone in their study of the GOGI Life Tools. Other individuals don't pay any attention to the calendar and, in fact, don't even use all the tools. For some, maybe one tool is their go-to tool, and that's all they need. The point is, all ways to use the GOGI Life Tools are correct. The goal of the GOGI Life Tools is to help anyone, anywhere, make more positive decisions. This means that anyone, anywhere, can use the tools any way that supports the positive decision-making process. Remember, too, that ultimate freedom suggests that being free is a choice you can make, and living with a perspective of service strengthens the freedom process. When you live your life with compassion for the perspectives and experiences of others, your freedom will grow within you, and you will find yourself sharing the GOGI Life Tools with others. Help others. While you may not feel sufficiently trained, adequately educated, or prepared to facilitate the sharing of the GOGI Life Tools with others, it is precisely through sharing that your education becomes solidified. Sharing a thought, an idea, or a concept does not require expertise. You do not need to be an expert. It simply requires experience. When you approach sharing your GOGI Life Tools with this perspective, you will find deep connections rooted in the humanity we all share. Helping others is not a job for experts as much as it is for like-minded individuals who have experienced a similar journey. At GOGI, we have always held the most value in the experience of the student, realizing that the student is actually the best teacher. When you feel motivated to discuss your tools, please do not hesitate. Somewhere along the way, someone will need to hear the exact words you share. Even if your words are not perfect, they might help lighten someone's load, just as yours was lightened. Help yourself. Remember, too, that with your focus on service to others, you are doing yourself the greatest service. As you engage in helping others with a smile or a simple act of friendship, you will have no time to wallow in the challenges or the impossibility of your situation. Your focus will be on the suffering of others and the simple ways you can help nudge others to a more positive perspective. This distraction from your own struggles will help you put your strengths into perspective, and your load will be lightened. Over time, with a focus on helping make the world a better place, you may discover that your concerns are not as heavy as you had previously perceived. The key is for you to look within for your answers and realize that within is where you find the strength to be a service to others. Continue your study. This book is designed to be informative, but it can be an ongoing source of inspiration and instruction. This book may help you revisit time and time again the function of each tool and the new ways you can apply them to the inevitable challenges you face. In this book is sufficient information to hold a weekly GOGI meeting or a study group. You can make copies of pages of this book to share with others. You can even encourage others to engage in the book report option and enjoy the handouts in the back of this book. This book can be whatever you wish it to be. Remember, GOGI is your set of tools to help you create the kind of life you always wanted, but lacked the tools to create. Creating your life the GOGI way. When we are young, we don't see the end of our life clearly. As we age, as we mature, the end of our life becomes something that crosses our mind more frequently. As we become old, we glance back at our life and begin to reflect. Regardless of the decisions you have made in your past, at any point, you can decide that the present is the best day to make the most positive decisions. Living each day in this manner will permit you to glance back at your life from the perspective of the progress you made rather than regrets that you accumulate. Sometimes when working with a young group of students, I will ask them to write what their eulogy might say. Most of them don't know what a eulogy is or how to write it, but once I tell them that it is something read at their funeral, they begin the reflection process. As you think about your own life, there will be those who remain hurt by your actions, but likely many more were blessed by your presence. If you think of your own eulogy and the lives you positively impacted, your choices today and the words you choose may alter a bit. Another activity I challenge my students to complete is the unwritten letter assignment, whereby I ask the students to write a letter to someone they have failed to write, but someone who needs to hear from them. This is most often a series of letters written to family who have been betrayed or friends who have been harmed, but in all cases, the student of GOGI is able to share that they now have new tools with which they can now make more positive decisions. Reflection is required for you to chart your course to a positive direction. Without reflection, we have a tendency to repeat the past. The GOGI Life Tools can help you function more solidly, and your thoughtful introspection will speak to your heart as to what they mean in your life. This can be done during sincere conversations with like-minded individuals, support groups, therapy, prayer, or other studies. What will not work for you is running away, numbing the pain, and pretending the hurt does not hurt. From all the volunteers of GOGI, and we are all volunteers at GOGI, we invite you to venture into the type of life you may never have thought possible, a type of life that makes the world a better place just because you are on it. And as we close the reading of this GOGI Life Tools mini book, let me read for you your GOGI Life Tools. You've learned a little about each one, and as I read their names, just reflect a little bit on how that tool might work for you. The GOGI Life Tools: Boss of my brain, belly breathing, 5-second light switch, positive thoughts, positive words, positive actions, claim responsibility, let go, forgive, what if, reality check, ultimate freedom. May you have the most awesome day possible. If you can, listen to this book over and over again. Let your subconscious soak it in. Get these tools into every fiber of your body. And then begin to live the GOGI way.